we're gonna jump over to a dialogue with Klaus that I've been looking very much forward to. It actually is in some sense quite personal. Klaus is the community guy of infosec, at least to what I know, and and it's kind of funny because we're going to talk about how he hacked his infosec career for more happiness. And like I said, he is the community guy, and Klaus was actually the guy who got me into the community. So I'm very thankful for being a part of B-Sides, but also OWASP, and also having met all the awesome people on this team and in the community in general. Um, Klaus, a lot of people know you, um, but I would like you to tell about yourself. And what I've done before is do a short introduction, but honestly, I would like you, just Klaus, to tell us a bit
Yeah,
about who you are.
of course. Yeah. Well, my name is Klaus. I'm 46. I've been in infosec for the last 17 years. I've tried basically anything in my career, but I really never really thought that or felt it like I had found my place, found out what I want to do for the rest of my life. And over time, it just got worse and worse. And so I started thinking about what makes me happy, and what periods of my life have brought me most joy, and what came up to my life, what came up to me at least professionally is all the things I've done with my community, within the community, and since then a few months after that, I accidentally needed a new job,
Right.
as it goes. Um, so I decided to use this information to yeah as the starting point of my job search, because, as I said before, working with the community and gathering people and just connecting people and all that stuff, that's I really love it.
Right.
So I thought, well, how can that be my job, and can it really be a job? Can it really be a job?
Yeah.
Um, I've been with OWASP Copenhagen and done talks, or arranged them at least, since 2008. I've co-founded B-Sides Copenhagen in 2019, and really, I mean, back to the thing about how do you make this job, and can it really be a job? In 2019, we talked, or we learned about Black Hills information security, and I talked a lot with Jason Blanchard, their community manager. And when at some point when I was thinking about all of this, that how do you make this community thing a job, I spoke of him. I thought of him, and I asked him, well, what do you do? Because it looks like something I would like to do.
Right.
And then he pointed me to this long thorough workshop where he basically outlines everything he does and everything they do at Black Hills information security, and also their marketing. And first of all, I was a little bit, marketing is am I going into marketing? Because I've
Right.
never seen myself as a marketing person, but apparently that's how it is. And after seeing that workshop, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So I made a PowerPoint presentation on that, and then I contacted all the companies in Copenhagen and in Denmark that could be interested in this, and I spoke with them, and some of them thought it was very interesting. Most of them did, but from them thinking it's a little bit interesting to actually want to base their entire marketing strategy on it,
Right.
that didn't happen. Unfortunately, of course. But then what? I mean, if I want to have a job like this, well, then what? So the obvious thing, and basically the only thing that I thought I could do, was to think more internationally, and
Right.
and then it was obvious for me to start using LinkedIn, because I do think I have something to offer with my long experience within infosec, and also my knowledge of the community, because it's not really hard to speak to the community if you know how to do it. And I can easily say it's not hard, because I've done this for so long, and I understand the community. But for somebody who doesn't know the community or knows infosec, it's probably, I could imagine, a lot harder. But the problem with that is that when I started looking at community manager positions or content marketing, as it's also as it's which is sort of related to that, then I saw that was a problem. And the problem was that, first of all, with the marketing jobs, I didn't have any experience, and they all wanted experience.
Right.
And if you're looking at when looking at the community manager job, it was all very entry level. Like you've been in it's been like 5 years since you graduated, and you don't even have to know anything about infosec.
Right.
So I mean,
and you're kind of past that point.
yeah, exactly. First of all, I may need a little bit more money than somebody on the age of 25.
Right.
But secondly, I would also feel it would be a terrible waste of all my knowledge.
Right.
So that's kind of a problem, because when you are applying positions like that, you would often talk to HR people, and they wouldn't understand. So I knew that I have to talk to somebody more senior. I have to talk to C-level, for their chief marketing officer or whatever.
Right.
But doing that, getting to that point, that is actually quite hard, because they're busy, and like C-level people are.
Exactly.
So what I did was that I first tried using LinkedIn. I got a month free of LinkedIn Premium, which you can do occasionally.
Yeah.
And I started sending people emails, and nobody replied.
Okay.
And then somebody said to me that.
Quick tip.
Yeah,
people
exactly.
might not reply.
no, not on emails, because as somebody told me, everybody hates them. So don't. So I changed tactics a little bit. He said that I should connect to people and then write, a personal note on why I would connect with them and what I want to talk to them about. And I did that, and that was actually quite successful, at least in the sense that I got to connect to somebody.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, writing the messages after that, saying, I'm this kind of person, I would like this kind of job, I'm looking for this, I've written this article or whatever.
Yeah.
They never replied. So I was stuck. So then I had to change tactics again.
Yeah.
And that tactics that I came up with was to use my network, or to use pivoting in general. Hackers like to pivot. I like to pivot. So basically, what I did was that I wrote this short article on how I thought marketing should be, and it had a little bit of a provoking title, saying that if you want commercial success in infosec, then don't do marketing. That was basically that was basically what it said. So Of course I hope to raise some eyebrows by that.
Yeah.
And also not making it too long.
Yeah.
And that's sort of worked, because that made me able to, first of all, send the article out to everybody I knew, and also like influences people that has a big network. Because the thing is with people is that they like to help. So one of the people that helped me a lot was Rick Ferguson from Trend Micro.
Yeah.
I sent it to him, and he replied back to me saying, well, Trend Micro does this. And that was a huge surprise to me, because I see Trend Micro as this big company that just does ordinary marketing, and that's it. And then I got to speak with their chief marketing officer in the US, and that's kind of a big deal, right? So that was great. And also David, that was here before, I sent the article to him, David Jacoby from Kaspersky, and he sent it on, and he passed it on to like the head of their content factory, and then all of a sudden I had a meeting with him. And then so basically that is what I did, and that had probably gotten me a job, if not there, then somewhere else by doing the same.
Right. So is that something you would recommend for people who want to?
Yeah.
Right.
You use your connection, and use the fact that people want to help. That's really good advice, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you don't know anyone, or then you can always like connect to somebody who does marketing or is interested in marketing, but on a slightly lower level, and then befriend them, build rapport, as Ron would say, and then at some point you will ask them, can you help me get introduced to your chief marketing officer, for instance?
Right, and I guess that could be both marketing, that could be infosec in general, that could be whatever
that could be that depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
I of course was heading for was looking at this as the chief marketing officer role because that would probably be the boss of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden there was a job ad that I hadn't seen before, but because literally I was looking at job ads and nobody wanted somebody like me, somebody who has this long infosec experience and wants to work with communities. It's like either people don't think they need me, or people think they can't get me, or get a person like me. Because to be honest, that is kind of a unicorn.
Right.
But I mean, I am one unicorn who needs a job. but anyway, it wasn't there, and there was a friend of mine who knew a company who needed someone just like me, and he tagged me on a LinkedIn post, and I got the job, and all is good.
And here we are.
And here we are. And of course, in that sense, I mean, then after, also in the process, but especially after the process, I thought there was something that could be learned of this, especially when I'm thinking of the way that I've been looking for a job, comparing to what everybody else does.
Right.
And what I think is important, and what I think is important that everybody should do it, is to start with what makes them happy.
Right.
Right. So that's what I did, and yeah.
And how did you identify that for yourself?
That's a good question.
Was it just experience over time, or?
It's, I just knew that I thought back to all to really the happiest moment of my professional life.
Right.
Which was like this. It brings me. I can't. It's hard to explain if you're not that kind of person. That you know, when you are at an OPAS meeting or at B-sides, especially when we had the physical, and you realize that I've been doing this. I've been part of this.
Yeah.
And you see people are having a good time, and people are learning, and people are meeting, and all that. That's just, to me, fantastic.
Right.
So to me, in that way, it was kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Really.
It makes you tick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what made me tick, and that's so that's what I wanted to say. What I want to convey to you, and that's why I'm having this talk.
Yeah.
That we should all all be like me. No, we should all all try to go for what makes us happy, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you consider, you found out what made you happy, you were in search of a job, you're the community guys, you know how to talk to people, you tried some different strategies, some didn't work, then you changed your tactics, all of a sudden they did work. What do you think you learned from this entire process of, being a unicorn, looking for a job that didn't exist yet?
Yeah, well, first of all, I learned that luck is very important.
Okay.
Because basically, the job that I ended up getting was pure luck. But if I didn't have, or if I hadn't ended up with that, then I would probably have found something else. But what I've learned is that even though that you set yourself a goal, and you sometimes in the middle of a process think that it's not going to happen, then yeah, it can. So I'm not going to say that hard work pays off or something like that. Something like that you've heard a million times, and I don't even know if it's true. I mean, there are many things that happened simultaneously that got me to the job and got me to the place I want to be and where I am today.
Right, but I guess you could say in some sense that it's not a classical job search process that we've been going through.
No, exactly, because that's what I talked about before when I said that when I'm looking at the way other people are doing, they are looking for, either they are looking for job ads, or they are just looking at very traditional roles and trying to figure out what role they fit into. And as years go by, you would probably tend to, I guess, do the same, go for the same kind of roles.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your career is over, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, not at all, because if that's what you want to do, and you go to work every day and you're happy and all that, then perfect, fine. Nobody, and I'm not saying that or even thinking that everybody should be unicorns, because I guess there aren't that many unicorns around. That's hence the name, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was wondering, you were in a situation where you needed a job. from one point to another. But are you the kind of guy, you just said, you have a tactic, you can change it, you're flexible, but are you the kind of guy, who makes a 5-year plan and then go for it?
No, exactly not.
Okay.
Because, as I said on my slide, there never was a plan. I've never, literally never had a plan with my career.
Right.
So I just started up at some point, and then I went to the next point, and then all of a sudden, I tried a lot of things without really. Well, at that point, I didn't realize that that I hadn't found my place or anything. I just, but it was just, I could just see it in the sense that over time, as I just felt it got a bit harder for me to get a job, and being in info security and everybody's screaming for resources is still, it's a weird feeling, thinking that why it's a little bit hard for me to get a job, or why, and then when I get a job, then yeah, maybe I don't have it for so long. I'm not saying that it's because I hated it or anything, because I didn't at the time, but when maybe it sort of tells that you aren't happy, and maybe even though that you don't know it yourself, then it's sort of, that's, yeah, maybe that could be one of the reasons, one among many, that that you ended up in a job a little earlier than you expected to.
Right. So is it true, do I understand it correctly, that you didn't have a plan, you kind of went along, and at some point you actually figured out what actually made you happy, and now you're actually in a position that suits you very much, but it's also a position that is kind of a crossover. So you have the infosec, and I know that you have a broad profile within infosec, and at the same time you're doing marketing. So that's not the classical mix.
No.
Just for myself, I'm a psychologist and I work at infosec, so it's like a crossover, but it works really well in doing a certain job. What do you think that companies are missing out on in terms of maybe not knowing that it's important, or not acknowledging these crossover roles?
Well, first of all, it's very easy to say that they're missing out on diversity, because diversity is a lot of things, and by that I don't necessarily mean color or education or anything. I just, my experience is that you get better results if your team is diverse,
right? Because
people think differently,
right?
And that's I think that's a huge strength. I always thought that genius. I don't. It's not to say that people that specialize are very good that they aren't genius. They are, of course, but what really stands out to me as a genius is somebody who takes something from one area of knowledge, and then put it into another and use it in a different way.
Right.
Thinking across.
Right.
I think that's genius.
Right. Maybe could that be a point for the audience to think about, if you're watching this, and maybe you don't have a classical technical background within infosec, but you think it's really interesting and you're not sure how to approach it, to think out of the box and figure out how you can, apply your skills.
Yeah, sure. I would be more than happy to use my experience in that sense, and also, as I said before, I like giving back to community. I like to help. So whenever I can do that, that's great.
Yeah.
But in terms of I sum it a little bit up on the slide, the saying that companies, they need broad profiles, but they don't know it, and there is an interesting issue here, because as I said before, nobody was looking for a profile like me.
Yeah.
But why didn't they do that? Is it because they didn't know that somebody like me existed?
Yeah.
Or is it because they just assumed that it wasn't possible, or was it because they didn't think they had the need? Because exactly, I see it as being the one guy in person, the only person in marketing who knows about Excel infosec. That gives me a huge strength, because my colleagues, they need to know stuff. They need to know stuff about infosec, and the way it usually works in other companies is that they have to bother the tech guys all the time about all sorts of weird things that they need input on, or they need to write something or anything.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's easier. You don't have to talk to so many people. And also, one of the things I want to do is also teach my marketing colleagues about technology, so that they know. The more they know about what they're actually doing, the better. Also, I'm doing community focused marketing, and if you're doing that, you need to speak to the community, and you need to give them some content, and you can't give them content if you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Exactly.
So I mean, in that sense, I think
Yeah.
the broadness is really important and really very overlooked
Right.
in that sense.
And actually coming back to you writing that article and, you know, sharing your knowledge and then bringing it out into LinkedIn or sharing it with people that you knew or that you were in contact with, and all of a sudden, you know, it kind of snowballs from there. I was wondering, would it be okay, you know, you're the community guy, would it be okay with you if, you know, people got in touch with you, either if they had questions regarding, you know, I'm in this role or I have this background and I'm curious how to do, you know, how to approach this. Like I said, you introduced me to B-Sides and to OWASP. And, you know, I had the lovely opportunity of standing here for the first time last year. And, you know, awesome seeing the great team again. So if people can get in touch with you, you know, what do you prefer? And like, also, do you want questions? Do you want to introduce people? Like, what, you know, what makes you tick in that sense?
Yeah, in that sense, what very much makes me tick is connecting people. So if somebody needs something from the community, if they are like a student who needs to talk to a certain kind of person or a certain kind of company about a certain thing, I would literally love to help.
Right.
And you will see my information on contact information on the screen.
Yeah.
If you're writing to me on LinkedIn, please, and I'll be happy to connect, but please tell me why you want to connect, because too many doesn't do that, and that's really annoying.
Yeah.
And also, of course, if you want to join our community, if you want to be a volunteer at OWASP or B-Sides or whatever, then I'll be happy to help you do that.
Right. So I guess that's an open invitation. What would be your most important takeaway for someone? It could either be a young person just entering the field, or someone who's been in infosec for 20 years, or been in a different field for 20 years and wants to enter infosec. Like, what would be your approach to kind of, you know, break out of the classical norms of searching for a job?
Well, I would start it somewhere else, because whenever I'm talking to a student or talking to people that wants input on what they're going to do, they first of all they insist on having some kind of plan, and I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I'm just saying that you don't have to have a plan in order to succeed. And then also another thing is that people tend to focus a lot on hackers and offensive security and you know, all the spy stuff and all the hacking and the red teaming and what you have, and it's not, of course, that's good and that's very very useful. But there are so many things to do in infosec. You don't have to be you don't have to be specific, particularly technical. You know, I mean, you're not particularly technical, because what you're doing is actually trying to be the person between the technician and the actual, you know, employees, so that they don't get pissed at you, right?
Exactly.
So I mean, security is very much about communication.
Right.
It's very much about the communication, both to the money people and your employees, so that they act more responsible and more secure.
Right. So if we can have Klaus's slide on the screen with his contact info, that would be really great. So then you have perfect. Thank you. Feel free to get in touch with Klaus. Ask questions. Like he said, please give some context.
I'm also on the B-Side Copenhagen Discord, so
exactly.
Yeah, you can ask your questions in the speaker question channel, whatever it's called, or write me directly. That's also fine.
Exactly. But yeah, please don't hold back on Discord. Go nuts. I guess that's it. Thank you so much, Klaus, and thank you for also having me brought on board.